Okay, so today I'm delighted to be joined by Pat Panioty, one of the founding members of the DELTAS, and a lot of history in the sort of rockabilly stroke psychobilly scene going back a lot earlier than that. Thanks for giving us that your time, Pat. Um, I, I lived in Devon when I was a kid. Sort of the
Right.
first time I heard the word rockabilly was probably like a lot of people that lived in the sticks was when Rockabilly Rebel came out, Matchbox in 1979.
Yeah,
But of
sure.
course, you guys were already, into all that. So tell us a little bit about the early. How did you sort of get into it? And what was it like?
Um, Difficult to say really. It was kind of went from Ted to Hepcat. The royalty, well, there were clubs like Bobby Socks, the Hotbine, the Cavern, and lots of early clubs that are early around at the same time as the royalty, as we started going to the royalty. And it was basically a TED scene, and there were bands like Johnny and the Roccos, Crazy Cavern, of course, Matchbox, Gina and the Rockabilly Rebels, ton of like TED bands doing uh, also Flying Saucers, Dynamite. They were doing covers, really not their own stuff. And then Matchbox came out with, their original tracks. And I think they were probably the first band that I can remember to have a double bass. Probably that I can remember. I mean, I could be wrong. Then, of course, you had Levi and the Rockettes. They were very early, and Whirlwind. I don't know if you probably you obviously know about Whirlwind.
Nigel Dixon, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they were really early on in the scene as well. I mean, they were a Ted band, but they were totally rocking. It was well into then. And Levi, of course, he's been going a good long time. The Jets, the Polecats started quite early doing covers. So there was kind of a Hepcat scene that came out of, I guess, wanting to be like Elvis. Really, we didn't really. Well, I didn't relate to the Teddy Boys, not really. I loved the scene, loved the way they looked, but I didn't actually relate. And I remember a couple of funny situations at the George in Hammersmith with the character Sunglasses Wrong.
Yeah.
I remember going up to the bar to order a drink, and I was a baby with a really horrible green fucking drape on. Excuse my French, green drape on. And this Ted come up to him and was like, "Oi, mate, what do you want?" Slightly racist in his attitude. And Sunglasses Ron just come up to him and just said, "Oi, leave that boy alone. He's our future." And it was hilarious. But he was one of the main characters around at that point. And we wanted to look like Elvis. That's it, basically. Then Flip opened in the King's Road about 78, I guess. Don't forget London. It was punk. You had a whole melting pot of subculture. Kensington Market, High Street Kensington Market was a massive instigator for fashion in general. Youngsters could go there, like Vivian and Holloway, Rockachar, Robot. A lot of these guys, Lloyd. And do your stuff, produce your fashion. And a lot of it was rocking. Flip opened a shop on the King's Road when Trevor worked there from Sully Lou Vintage. And the Hepcat scene started. And it was different to Rockabilly. It was, you wanted to, because you also had Hillbilly. You had these cats turning up at the clubs with roll down Wellingtons, super tight jeans, and donkey jackets, digging like grass cutter blues and stuff like that, So there were many scenes within the scene, and wanting to look like Elvis, early Cliff Richard, Billy Fury, Eddie Cochran, and I think my first enlightening moment was hearing Johnny Burnett. I just thought, what is this? Train kept a rolling, just like, what is this? Obviously heard Elvis, his son stuff, but never really associate that with rockabilly. Not really. It was just Elvis. My mum and dad played it when I was a kid, and I grew up on the blues. First song I ever heard was Smokestack Lightning, and Elvis actually. So yeah, wanting to look like our 50s rock and roll stars. I guess that's where it came from.
Did it? Was it that had happened when? Because you must have been quite young. Probably were probably similar ages. So were you guys able to go to these clubs? As like young teenagers, and had this already happened, the split, or did you young guys go into those clubs, create the split?
No, we created the split. Yeah, it was us. I mean, I'm 65 now, So, you know, we were just on the cusp of that. And we created that split for sure. You know, there's a whole bunch of us that were, I mean, we had our own little gangs. There was a Harrow, there was a Wembley Plastics, there was a Willesden, there was, you know, these lunatics from Southgate, and the guys down from Southend. You know, they come and change the scene quite a lot. So yeah, I think we created that scene definitely. 76, maybe 77.
Right, okay, because I remember the Rockabilly Rose OK album with the guy with his thumb up in front of Buckingham Palace. I mean, so that was easy for us kids in the sticks because we went out and bought donkey jackets from the local farmer's shop. But that was already out of date by then, wasn't it? Really, as far as
well, it wasn't so much out of date as whether it was what you were into. But yeah, I mean, Hepcats was what it was about, really.
Yeah. So when did your sort of musical talent start? When did you start playing?
I played in a band from the age of 15, a band called Rebound, which essentially originally was a doo-wop band. There was about 8 or 9 of us, and I think we just wanted to recreate Happy Days, you know, that television program.
Yeah.
My buddy Steve Haley was a drummer, and his mum and dad were, I think they were Canadian, but they had a mid-century house. So we'd hang out on the drive and, you know, play with cars, learn how to play guitar. I was in the school choir originally, so I had a hankering for guitar. And we were a doo-wop band. There was 10 of us, 8 or 9, 10 of us, girls, guys. And then Rebound became, then of course, Ray Campy and, you know, Colin Minsky, that whole movement. I mean, probably that was the first rockabilly that I would say, aha, that was the first rockabilly I heard. That was a early 70s, mid 70s, I guess. So we covered those songs. We covered, you know, Quit Your Trifling, some Billy Fury, of course, his first album, you know, that 10-inch. Jesus, you know, I wore that out.
Fury.
Absolutely. Joe Brown on guitar, you know, and it was like this stuff, you just really loved it. You know, you loved it. It was great. It had it swang, you know, it was swinging. It really was rocking. So we covered a lot of those songs. Didn't write any new materials. And then we ended up becoming the Phantoms. I left at that point. They become like a Cliff Richards tribute band and had quite a lot of success, actually. But yeah, Rebound, we were probably one of the first rocking bands that was around, I think, that were young. And I mean, the Polecats come into our gigs and, you know, sort of being a little bit mesmerized by some of the songs we were doing.
So that sound, because there is you know, I was listening to Boogie Disease again this morning, and it's like if you were singing about monsters, it could be the Meteors as well. Could, you know, all that sort of hard edge stuff. Did that sort of come with being brought up with sort of punk rock in the background, even if you weren't actively into it, or were you into punk? I mean, were you looking?
Yeah, I mean, I was into music. You know, in general, I love glam rock. I still love glam rock. You know, I think I would say Mark Bolan was probably one of my biggest influences in terms of just a sound. You know, that like that like angry kind of guitar drone with the lightweight congos in the background. And actually, we introduced congos into the Deltas a little bit later on after the first album. Yeah, glam rock, punk. I wasn't really into punk, but I was into the fact it was like completely new and, you know, just stripped everything away from the music industry in our country. I love the fashion that's changing. Of course, Vivian, Malcolm, again, Kensington High Street, you know, they had a massive influence on everyone. They really did. You know, I can't express that enough. You know, you'd go there every Saturday and it was electric. You know, it was electric. You could see anyone in there. Well, you did, you know, Clash, Pistols, Hepcats, rocking, you know, anytime someone came to London to play a show, they would go there and hang out and buy clothes. It was an incredible influence on all of us, you know. And you could get your hair cut there as well and buy records.
Was that his flip when it used to bring all the old 50s stuff over? Was it affordable? Could you guys sort of afford to like, get pink pegs and that sort of stuff? Or
so funny enough, last night I was talking to Trevor from Sunny Lou Vintage about this very subject with Irvin Gordon, who he works at Vintage Store in Camden Market, and at that point you could buy anything, gauchos, pink pegs, orange pegs. You could buy absolutely anything, you know, fleck jackets, pink and black, anything. It just came up in the truckload. And it was like every jacket was a tenner, and every pair of trousers was a fiver. And if you had 100 quid, you could basically buy half the shop. You know, honestly, it was amazing. I didn't take advantage of that. I was buying stuff in Boy, buying stuff at Kensington Market, creating my own fashion. I was also into quite hard funk, you know, like James Brown, Johnny Guitar Watson. I was into the R&B, but I'd gone past that R&B into what it became, you know, Fatback Band, R&B for sure, rocking, but in a different way. So my fashions were kind of like slightly different. I wanted to be more edgy, basically.
Okay, so what a lot of people know that you were in Raw Deal when Paul Fenech and Nigel Lewis were in
Yeah,
that band. I mean, I don't think there was ever anything recorded, was there? I've not heard anything
no.
anyway. So tell us a little about how that came about, and you know the sort of the time scale
So
that was.
that would have been either very late 78, so really early, or early 79. And I think Raw Deal basically just changed everything. You know, whoever saw us were mentally altered from that point onwards, you know, because I don't know how it happened. We were just a crazy band, you know. It's very different characters. You had Paul, who, by the way, is an incredible guitar player. You know, I've got a lot to thank him for. Me, who wanted to be a Hat Cat, wanted to be Elvis. He made me sing 3 songs because he couldn't sing and roll around the floor and basically kick off in the audience. Nigel Lewis, we all know Nigel, and at the time Nigel, and of course Terry L from the Flying Saucers. I just got a call from Terry one day. I just left Rebound, and I think I must have played at Royalty, and he just called me up one day and said, "Look, I've got this new project. Are you interested?" So yeah, okay, I'll come along. What do you want me to do? He said, "Well, you know, play guitar." Okay. So that was it. We went down to Paul's studio. I think it's in Clapham South. He had a studio in the basement in one of these big old Victorian houses on the corner. And we just played a series of stuff like Riverside Jump, at really early Rockabilly, Look Out Mabel, some Johnny Burnett. He had an absolute dislike, hating for Gene Vincent. If you ever wanted to piss him off, you just say, "Vincent, Gene," you know, and he would just lose his temper. And it was great. It just sounded amazing. You know, I think Paul was only 17 then, probably. I think he's 16 or 17. And it just sounded great from day one. And we went out and started gigging, you know, and it was just bonkers. Culminating in probably one of the biggest gigs around at that time was when we played with the Polecats at Gossips, which is at the Billy's Club in Mears Street, which was Gaz, you know, Gaz's Rockin' Blues, Gaz Mail. It was his club. He put us on. In fact, no, Nick Garrard rented the place and put the gig on. Nick Garrard was the manager. In fact, I would say, just want to say for the record, Nick Garrard invented Psychobilly, no question. You know, if it wasn't for him and his crazy ideas about horror film music, it would never have happened.
Oh, really? So
Yeah,
so he
100%.
was coming up with those ideas.
Oh,
And
100%. He would send the guys off to go and look at horror movies, you know. Also, people don't mention the Cramps enough either. You know, I don't know what they were doing, but they never actually influenced me in any way. I think they did influence a lot of people. You know, they were really early on. Don't know what you'd call it really. It wasn't rockabilly, it wasn't psychobilly. Not sure what it was.
so Raw Deal sounding very positive. So what happened?
We were rocking. Yeah, it was. I think we were destined to fail we were a success in our own right for sure. But we fell in a really weird place. The clubs we played at was a very divided audience. Teddy boys absolutely hating us, chasing us down the road with machetes and clubs and stuff. And it was literally, you know, running down, chasing after our Luton van, like me, literally running. Guys, open the back, jumping, scrambling in before they could get us. That happened in a gig in Manchester. one of Terry's mates. Hence to say we never played there again. Yeah, and the Hepcats didn't know really what to make of us either. It was so early, crazy. It was a crazy time. So we were destined to fail. I think we were just too bonkers, and our characters were so different as well. So yeah, the band just split. I think I left first. Nigel and Mark set together and formed the Meteors. I think Nigel was the influence in that band actually. I think they joined up with Mark. Was Mark the first drummer? I think he probably was. Cool guy. And Terry went back to doing his stuff, flying saucers, gigging everywhere. And I formed the Deltas.
So tell us about how that.
At a loose end, my girlfriend at the time, Catherine Lindsay, said, "Look, I've got a couple of friends, Steve and John, who I'd really like you to meet. They're looking for someone to form a band with." So I said, "Okay, great." And it was, perfect harmony here. It was at the Buzz and Flyers gig. I don't know if you were able to go to that show, the first show at the Royalty. Do you remember that?
Me, I never went to anywhere like that. No.
Right, okay.
No. I was in Devon.
I guarantee that changed everyone's life that was at the show. It was just, you kind of just thought, this is what we want to do, what we want to be. They nailed it. You had Buzz Wayne, just this like Afro quiff, super cool, black and white, trousers that are too short, rock roll on drums, just really cool guy, straight vest, small kit, stand up, black pegs, white shoes. And I think it was Matt playing bass at that time. And seriously, and of course, how could we forget the guitar player, Michael Jean? Sadly he committed suicide years later. I think it was, I don't know why he committed suicide. I think it was to do with the fact that he couldn't quite come out being gay. It was on the Brooklyn Bridge. And he played a gold ES-175, ES-295 Scotty Moore guitar, which I now play. And they just took everything by storm. They were just unbelievable. So original, but so on their own. They were so cool. We went crazy. And so everyone was on a good high. And, that night I met Steve and John, the Deltas. And we just said, yeah, okay, let's give it a go. And that was it. As simple as that. I already knew Steve and John from the clubs, but I didn't know who they were. Ironically, we would always dance to the same songs, which were, crazy black stuff, like mellow saxophone, anything, feeling good, that sort of, that was actually really, really not played very much at all. Just a few DJs would play any black R&B at all. It was mainly white rockabilly and rock and roll.
I was going to ask you about that because I used to get like New Commotion and magazines like that. I do remember, I think there was a column by like Sailor Jerry or somebody used to be in there, which would just feature the R&B stuff, which was just like a side column or something. So that sort of Dr. Ross and stuff like that, it wasn't an integral part of the rocking scene as such. So were there any sort of clubs that specialized in that or any DJs?
No, not as far as I knew. I'm sure there was some obscure DJ somewhere that was a blues collector playing blues stuff. But no, absolutely not. 100%, I think we introduced that stuff into the scene. I just don't know how it would have got there otherwise. Eventually through R&B maybe. But all the stuff we covered and we liked to listen to that we didn't cover, that was what we were about. We're about the blues and we love rockabilly. So that's why it turned out the way it did. We wanted to, when you hear your favorite R&B song, your favorite rockabilly song, that feeling you get, that's how we felt about every song we covered. The energy that we felt from the song.
We're talking of energy. Bloody hell! When I first heard, I bought the single. I'm assuming the single came out before the album, did it? That's where I found the single first, anyway.
Yeah,
Heart Attack and Spellbound. And that that was at that sort of early times. It was tougher than the Polecats for sure. But before we go on to that, what was the sort of feeling about the Stray Cats when they turned up? Were you guys that have been into it for years?
We were asked to support them. This is in 81, I think. I saw it could have been late 80, 81. I was at the first show, and we were asked to support them it could have been the first tour, the second, probably the second tour, because the first tour no one really knew about them. And their manager, oh, I can't remember his name right now, came to see a couple of our gigs. He just said, "Forget it, man. You are not supporting the Stray Cats." So, okay, I took it as a compliment. But look, they were great. You know, I mean, I remember seeing them at Dingwalls. There was a glamorous Britt Eklund in the background, poking her head around the stage curtain. They were great. You know, great. They were somewhere between punk, rock and roll, rockabilly. Great guitar playing. Just they were fantastic. Yeah, I wasn't into them, but I appreciate what they stood for and what they did for the scene.
Yeah, no, I was never. I've seen the Deltas since, but I obviously never saw the Deltas back in the day. And I used to be an avid reader of reviews and stuff because we could never go up there and see this sort of stuff. I remember that what they always said about the Deltas was the wild stage show. And at one point, I read that you all turned up in boiler suits or something, and it was just like drenched in sweat and all that. So, I
Yeah,
mean, was it because you were playing the music that you absolutely loved and it was sort of you were just getting gone on it, or was there a lot of
yeah.
effort put into thinking about this sort of stuff and it just happened?
No, I never thought about it. I had, I was called the captain, and I did play up to that captain name, Captain
Captain
Pat
Marvel,
Marvel.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that came. I never really sweated, so I got there was this image drawn up cartoon by me, but I think um, who was it who did it? I can't remember now. I do remember actually, but I can't remember her name. She did this like image, and there was Captain Pat Marvel with a block of ice on my head, and it not melting. It's like just cool. So that was it. And my girlfriend at the time, Catherine Lindsay, she did the logo, the Screaming Man. Um, yeah, I think no, we never ever would we ever have a contrived stage show. Forget it. I mean, that just wasn't us, and it's not us now. We have no feeling for anything that's been rehearsed apart from the music. We never rehearsed as much then. Oh, actually, a bit later we didn't. We did rehearse. Yeah, yeah, to
Okay,
do new songs.
so you released on Nervous. So how soon after your gigs? I mean, I assume that Roy Williams is somebody stood at the corner of the royalty and hugged you after, gave you a nudge after the after one of the shows or something.
Yeah, no, it was his gig. The Royalty was the Wild Back show. It was his gig. Him and Stuart Wester. Yeah,
So how soon after you were sort of gigging in that did the recording come into it?
I think really early. I mean, we started. The album was released in 80, I
81, I
think.
think.
81. Yeah, January 81. We recorded it in 79, in 80, late 80. We started gigging around the summer of 80, and straight away, I mean, people just picked up on us, and all of our gigs were packed. We didn't really choose our venues carefully. We just got asked, but I think the first year we played something like 240 shows. We would play relentlessly. We were asked to play everywhere. A lot we turned down, actually, just couldn't do them. I was the only driver at the time. The other guys couldn't drive. Little John was too young, and Bongo couldn't. Thank God. Yeah, and I've got to say also, we never had an argument in all these years. Everything is a democracy with us, even now. Even though Little John's having a sabbatical, it's all about democracy, and we never fell out about anything ever. Even the
Okay.
music. The way we would choose what to do is literally play a song once at Little John's house, go play it upstairs, go downstairs, play it. If we dug it, we kept it. If we didn't dig it, we just didn't play it again. And if we did dig it, we still wouldn't play it again, because it was. People always say to me, "Oh, but man, that isn't like the lead break." So I don't want to play the lead break like the lead break. I can't do that. I can do it, but it's not going to be that. I love that music for what it was, what it represented to me. This is my interpretation of it. I don't want to play. I think we did tear it up for a while. I don't want to play that break. It's Grady Martin. Like, or Paul Burson, you know, one of them two, just nailing it. You know, we wanted to put our own spin on everything, really. Like, you know, like Raging Sea, like Boogie Disease, all that stuff. It was how we felt the music touched us, you know, and the energy that came out of that stuff. Boogie Disease, so typical to see Dr. Ross, you know, playing that stuff originally. You know, it's like watching a religious moment. You know, it's incredible. So that's basically it. You know, we were never trying to be a covers band, although we did cover quite a few of our favourite songs.
Now, I've spoken to Tim Polecat and Mark Robertson actually, and both of them talk about the early recording sessions. It was some weird and wonderful places they recorded in. So, what was your experience like when you did? Was a single done separately to the album, or was it?
I think we recorded the whole session. Maybe it could have been Pathway actually. Yeah, I think it was Pathway. Oh, it's a long time ago. I'm sure it's on the album. But we didn't record in too many weird places. I think we've only ever released one single apart from an EP that we did with Boz. Can't Judge a Book. Yeah, I don't know why actually. Yeah, I don't know why we never did another single. We just made albums. It's quite a few.
Was Boogie Disease sort of fairly live, or did you do it like layers and that sort of thing?
Everything was live. Everything we ever recorded was live, even to now. You know, the stuff on Fleetwood to Vegas was live. You know, at Boz's studio in Portugal. I did a couple of breaks overdubs because I was playing rhythm. There's an R&B. You know, the stuff, the newest stuff on Fleetwood to Vegas that we recorded with Boz is my shout to R&B. You know, I wrote that stuff with. This is what I love to do. You know. So you've got rhythm and you've got some overdubs. And actually, when you listen to the overdubs, they don't feel as real as the rest of the album. They feel like overdubs. In actual fact, yeah. But only because of the album, I think, feeling so natural. Actually, I must say as well, the album, I bought the rights of the album to Gary Day, off Gary Day.
Yeah.
We all know Gary. He's a dear friend of mine and all of ours. And then I remastered those. I didn't want to just produce the album as it was, because it's probably my second favorite Deltas album, but I thought the quality wasn't so good, and it felt dated to me in terms of the sound. So Graham said, "Yeah, I'll give you a hand to do it." Kitty, Daisy, and Lewis's dad. Went into, he's got this vintage cutting room. He was with Island Records and all that early breakthrough mastering stuff in the 70s. And he remastered it. We did it together. He did an incredible job. So I think the quality of the old stuff with the new stuff on the new album is second to none. It's really great. It's great. It doesn't stand out as being dated at all. Feels fresh.
So that's just been released now. So tell us about the current Deltas.
Yeah, so we've gone through quite a transition over the last year, being, you know, the Deltas, the three of us, for like our whole lives, you know, 38 years, 39 years, something like that. Little John just said, look, I want to have a break. He's working a lot, which, you know, obviously was upsetting for us, but it's cool. We're friends, you know, and it's always a pleasure to see John. In fact, he played with us a little while ago at Shakedown. So we replaced John with Kev McGee, who, you know, anyone who knows anything about modern rockabilly, earlier rockabilly from the 70s and 80s, he's played with everyone. He's played with Sonny Burgess, he's played with Fenech, you know, he's played with everyone. There's no one he hasn't played with. Incredible bass player. Looks a bit like Little John. That was definitely slightly contrived by me. And actually, he's been asked to sign autographs as Little John, so hands up for that one. Drummer's a bit more difficult because we never had a drummer originally. So we had John Buck because the band, well, actually Boz Sporer introduced John Buck to the band. We had various drummers before that: Steve Wellhard, Ray Heath, Ricky, who played congas and a small kit. But we became more of a power band when Boz joined. John Buck, we were a real powerhouse, and at that point, I would have been happy to support anyone in the world, any band, you know, because I think we were one of those bands that could do that. And also Bongo's voice. I think Bongo and Peter from the Swedish band, what they call the Go Getters. I played with them actually. I played guitar for Peter in Mexico last year. I think that two of the best voices in the scene, 100%. You know, they're just incredible. So yeah, we brought different drummers in. John Buck his commitments with the Polecats were so great that he couldn't stay with us for as long as he'd like to have done. And then I found Howie. I didn't want anyone that was on the scene. It would have been easy to have done that. But I found Howie, who was this cross between like I don't know, gay cowboy, liked to play stand-up, Mexican look, which suited us perfectly and was great. He brought a new flavour to the new songs. We just recorded another album called Good Time Guide. So he learnt that new stuff, and it was about that time that he got involved. We then went to Sun Studios with him, played around America, and recorded 5 or 6 new tracks that I wrote with Bongo at Sun Studios, which, to be honest, it doesn't really get any greater than that. Have you got that album?
I haven't, no.
Like, well, send me your details to jog me, and I'll send you a copy. It's great. You know, it's basically my celebration of Memphis music. I've been going there quite a lot in the last few years, and it's garagey, it's bluesy, it's out and out psychobilly, and it's out and out rockabilly as well. You know, there's a different flavour for everyone. It's great. It's a great track, and that was also recorded on at Sun Studios, but released on Migraine again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Ray Heath. I just want to go back to another big part in my life was the Rockabilly the Kid NME.
Right.
Where the first time I saw Ricochet Ray,
yeah,
they say he looked like a bullock with a force field of acne or something like that. But so were you there that night when the NME were there?
Yeah. It was it's an interesting occasion. I don't remember too much about it, but you know, the Enemy and Sounds, they were really good to us. They followed us everywhere, and Sounds just loved us. I think at one point the album, every track on the album was in their charts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, we topped the charts for weeks. Enemy kind of loved to hate us a bit. I'm not sure why really, but they give us a lot of coverage.
I used to go hungry when those mags came out. I used to buy them every week.
With
my dinner money on the way to school. Yes.
Well, you didn't know where to go otherwise.
Well, I knew I couldn't go there anyway. At least I used to read about what other people had seen and done anyway. So it was brilliant stuff. So, Pat, I think one thing I was going to ask you is what the Meteors thing. The crowd was sort of all of a sudden they weren't bopping. They were not beating each other up, but you know.
Yeah. So
was it a similar crowd to you?
Right. That whole. Yeah, I mean, I went to the Meteors' first few gigs and I loved them. That first album to me is just, you know, it's basically what Raw Deal would have become, I think. It was rockabilly as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't psychobilly like the Deltas, you know, our first album to get psychobilly. I don't even know where that came from for us. But I understand why we were labelled in that psychobilly. I mean, we struggled with gigs actually after like 82 or 83, just because no one knew where to put us. The rockabilly crowd were like too authentic for us. You know, they felt we weren't what they wanted to hear, even though we made them dance and made them do something. And the psychobilly crowd, we were a little bit not psychobilly enough, maybe. But we didn't go short shows. So yeah, it's a weird thing. I think it came out of punk, because I think a lot of the people that came to the Deltas and to the early Meteor stuff, and I don't know who started first, the Meteors or the Deltas, but our very first show in Luton, there is a recording of it somewhere, a tape that someone recorded. The place, it went to this chapel in Luton, and we're meant to be playing there, and the power had been turned off. It was basically a squat. The power had been turned off. Well, you know, my trade was electrician, so I found a way of turning the power back on again. To get the gig going. This is the honest truth, you know. So I obviously went and found some piece of random metal in the ground and put it in the main break. Went ka-chung, bing, everything came back on again, and we got to do the gig. And I did turn it off after the gig. And suddenly the crowd just, when we played Boogie Disease, it was like, I remember looking at what was going on and just being horrified, excited, not knowing what to do. And I think from that point, that's when wrecking started. I think for me, it started in punk for sure, you know, but that type of wrecking where you're not actually pogoing, people were just reacting to something they'd never heard before, which is how I felt on stage, you know. Yeah, it was quite a shock. And I never really got it, actually. I get it now. Now when I listen back to our early stuff, I 100% get it, you know. But at the time, I'm thinking, are we doing this? You know, are we really doing this? And there's like, you know, 200 kids out there just going crazy, you know. Yeah. So
I've done this this sort of series under the very, very loose umbrella of Psychobilly's, you know, Zoom. Would I be sort of right? Just sorry to keep you back to the very early days. Would I be right in thinking at the time the Meteors, that was just their little bit of a trademark, the horror-y sort of stuff? And were you surprised that an actual genre came out of it? Because, like I said at the very beginning, listen to Boogie Disease today. A lot of the tracks on there, had you been talking about zombies rather than London Girls, that could have been the Psychobilly.
Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Music.
No, they were zombies.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. You know, to us, it was you know, all those songs of ours, Spellbound, you know, that's another one. They're about our own experiences, and, you know, Pie and Mash. They all have connotations that, you know, only Bongo could probably tell you about, because, you know, I never wrote any words. Well, I wrote some of the words actually, but he basically had all the ideas. I wrote all the music, and he wrote the words. We write together always. We're not very good apart. We're good together. We're just lazy, to be honest. So yeah, they were zombies. You know, London Girls, they were. You know, different flavors of zombie. Some blonde, some brunette.
So I just to finish off, I see you've got a lot of stuff coming up. You're playing in Japan, is it?
Yeah, we're off to Japan to play at their Halloween ball with the Kaisers. We're actually headlining the bill with the Kaisers, which is a real honor for me. I think we've almost got there many times since 1981, but it's never quite happened. So I think they're happy to have us there. We're happy to go there. So we're doing one show there. They wanted us to do a tour, but I think we'd much rather that. Well, the timing just didn't work for the whole band, actually. And I think we want to be tourists. Yeah, we've got that coming up. We've got the 12th and 13th, I think, in December. We're playing in Northampton at the Garibaldi, I think. And we're playing at the Boogaloo. Is it the Garibaldi? No, it's not, actually. I'll tell you where it's. Bromyard. I'll just look in my diary quickly. The Boogaloo on the Sunday. Right, Bromsgrove, the Bromsgrove show on the 13th is in Northampton, and 14th is the Boogaloo. So yeah, we've been playing a lot. It's been fun. So yeah, just to say, we've since Howie, we then had a Nicky, who was the drummer with the Ravellos, played with Tenpole Tudor, played with Stranglers. It just didn't quite suit that. So this goes to show we're on the side of rocking. Nicky's drum style didn't quite suit the Deltas. It just, you know, it didn't work. So, you know, we all agreed that we would, you know, let that pass. We've now got a girl called Ronnie, and you heard it first here. She's a Spanish girl. She brings a whole new flavor to the band. She can swing, and she's really enthusiastic. So yeah, it's a transition for the band.
All right, finally, the current lineup as we speak.
Captain Pat, Stevie Bongo, Kev McGee, and Ronnie on drums.
Tremendous. Well, hopefully get to see you out on the road at some point. I really do appreciate your time, Pat. It's been fascinating for me from seeing it, being a record buyer, but seeing it from afar, what it was like, what I missed. But it's
Yeah.
great to see you're still all at it, and
Well,
tremendous.
I
Good
hope
luck.
someone does a thing on the scene. I mean, there's been various books that haven't even touched the surface. They spoke to the wrong people, really. But the scene's fascinating, you know, from 74, 75. Actually, we're doing the Crazy Cavern reunion, or the memorial next year, which I'm very honoured to be at. And there's a track on the new album called Empty Chair, Empty Seat, which is basically our tribute to Crazy Cavern and Grogan. You know,
I
I was
went to
like,
that last year, the first one.
yeah. So we're playing the second one. I was happy and I was pleased to be spend a weekend with Lyndon just earlier in the year, who's one of my guitar heroes for sure. All my influences are from the old days, T-Bone Walker, Chuck Berry even, but for modern days, really, it's Lyndon.
Tremendous. Yeah. Top legacy those guys left. Well, obviously, the Rhythm Rockers are still doing it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
tremendous. Well, Pat, thanks very much for your time.
Great to see you.
And good luck for the year, and hopefully catch up with you in real life at some point.
Perfect. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Hello everyone, just a quick one. If you have enjoyed these videos and are enjoying these videos, can you please like and subscribe to my channel? Thanks very much.